Robinhood's latest technologies, which you all heard about, innovations, and then where this industry is going next. So this is going to be a really fascinating interaction, and I hope you all enjoy it. And I want to say thanks again to everybody for sticking around with us all day, and I hope you got to learn something. So please join me in welcoming Vlad and Jason.
All right. How's everybody doing? Nice, nice. I'm so excited to be here. Vlad and I have been friends for, well, since before the product launched.
Yeah. You always love telling the story of how we met.
Yeah, so I am known as, at least in
with appropriate color.
With appropriate color. Yeah. You know, the story gets better every year.
Time.
Every year I add a little bit of a flourish to the story. But this is a true story. I have made my private market career by investing in things that don't make sense to most people. My number one investment was a taxi cab company. I introduced it to 21 of my friends. 19 said no. 3 of us said yes. It was a $4.5 million company, and it was called Uber Taxi. I told my friend Travis, can you drop the taxi and just call it Uber? And he said,
that was
yeah.
your idea, huh?
Yeah, and he said, yeah, we're going to do that. I said, can I get credit for it? Because Sean Parker told him to drop the "the" from Facebook. And then I was out one night at a place called Antonio's Nut House in Palo Alto, which is no longer there.
Yeah, may it rest in peace.
Rest in peace. It was the type of dive bar that when you get your beer and you go to take a sip, there's still lipstick on the glass. So you turn it around, and then there's a different color lipstick. So, do
you remember there was a monkey in a cage that you would go and get your peanuts from?
Yes, yeah. And there were peanuts all over the floor. I mean, this was a pretty, rough.
There was a photo of Zuck. He looked like he was 12 years old, and your buddy Chamath playing pool at the pool table in the back.
Yeah, it was a pretty famous place for, like, a good place to go in Silicon Valley. And so my friend Adeo invited another friend and I to go get beers after work. And Vlad walks up and he says, oh, hey, J. Cal, I got this new company. I said, hit me with it, pitch me. And then he looks over and he goes, is that Elon Musk? And I said, yeah, I'll introduce you in a second, but tell me the name of the company. And he says, Robinhood. And I said, wow, that's a great name. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a quant. I'm like, what's a quant? He said, quantitative? I said, oh, yeah, I saw The Big Short. I understand. I said, hit me with the idea. And he said, I want to get young people. This is how many years ago?
This was 2013.
2013, 12 years ago. I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to get young people, which I guess would be millennials at the time, to start investing in stocks and taking control of their financial future. I said, that's really interesting because those millennials are on their parents' Netflix accounts. They don't have driver's licenses. And this is like the lamest, weakest generation of people who aren't even thinking about the future. And he's like, yeah, that's why we want to make it easy for them to trade. I said, okay, hit me with the business model. He said, it's going to be free. I said, okay, you're a quant, so you're smart. Let me repeat back to you, Vlad, what you've just told me. You're making an app for people who don't trade and have no conception of saving for the future. And the way you're going to make this into a business is by making it free when E-Trade's charging $14. He said, exactly. I said, I'm in. And he looked at me and he said, well, the way you said it made me feel a little stupid. I don't know. I said, no. You have to understand, Vlad. What if it works? And look at this fucking room. It fucking worked. It fucking worked. And
he also told me this is probably the best idea you're ever going to have. which at first made me a little bit sad because I was 26 years old. I was like, oh, I'm going to have dozens of ideas. But then I thought about it, and I said, well, what if he's right?
What if he's
I
right?
better really try hard to make this thing work, because it might be the best idea I ever have.
You know, my little venture firm gets 25,000 pitches a year. You know, 90% of them, you expect the idea, it's like kind of obvious, and then probably 10% of them are perplexing and confusing, and you don't think they're going to work. And that's when you get curious. When you don't understand something, I think it's a really interesting topic, too, for trading, is when you don't understand something, and when it challenges convention, get curious. Double-click. Do some research. And, you know, the amount they derided Robinhood for those early years, every time I heard somebody say, this is stupid, it's never going to work, it's childish, they're doing confetti, it's not, doesn't have a proper interface, there's no desktop app, traders...
Now there is.
Now there is. I mean, it took long enough. I mean, it was about 11 years. But, you know, every time you hear that kind of resistance, to me, that means the person's onto something. Because they also tried to stop Uber. They tried to stop Airbnb. The great ideas are so disruptive that people try to stop them. And, you know, in my little venture fund, we distribute the shares. And we distributed the Robinhood shares at, I think, about, I don't know, $12 or $14, about 6 months after the IPO. And I have the note. I'll send it to you, to my LPs. And I said, I'm never selling a share of this company if Vlad is CEO. He's one of the most spectacular CEOs I've ever seen.
Thank you. You're too kind.
I said, I beg you, I'm giving you these shares at $12. Do not sell them, or I'm not selling them. This isn't financial advice, but please don't fucking sell them. And I don't know where it's trading at now. You guys, I think, are like $52 or something, 53?
A little bit higher than that.
Wait, it's more? I'm rich. No, I know what it's trading
at. We don't look at the
at.
stock price very much, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
We look at it a little bit.
Well, I mean, and the reason I told them was the product velocity at this company and the execution and the way they understand their users, I've never seen in any company. Any company. There's no team I've seen, you know, maybe I would put Zuckerberg up there, but I don't think his products are as elegant and as thoughtful as yours, Vlad. And I mean that sincerely. It's obviously a bigger company, and he's successful in his own right. But I've never seen any firm in 500 investments I made in the private market that has the product velocity and who understands the people in this room as well as you do. And I think that's like a good opening question here, which is...
Well, let me ask you something before you move on, because you're saying these positive things.
Yeah.
But actually, one thing that I really appreciated about you is even when there were a lot of haters, and not just at the beginning, but you remember the GameStop era. Usually I'm on the receiving end of GameStop questions.
Yeah.
But I'll ask you one. You're a very loyal defender, even publicly.
I've been through this movie before. You know, Elon and I are best friends, and I watched every time, you know, he made a mistake or he had a hurdle or he tripped. He got back up so fast and learned so fast and got so much stronger. And then I saw the same exact thing occur with Travis from Uber, and they also had some bumps in the road. And then I realized the way to judge a leader is not by how they're doing when they're winning. It's how they react to a mistake or a challenge. And it was very hard to defend Uber at one point in time. You remember when they ousted the CEO, one of my best friends for many decades, Travis. I went on CNBC, and in the short term, it cost me political capital to defend them.
Yeah.
And I sat there, and the 3 CNBC anchors were savaging me. How can you defend this? It's indefensible. They're doing all this stuff. I said, you know, the thing that you will learn over time is that great founders are made through suffering and pain. And Travis is one of the greatest founders I've ever seen, and this will only make him better at what he does. So you can hate all you want, but I know the resiliency of Travis and Elon and Vlad. Individuals like this with a sense of mission, who inspire their teams, and who innovate. You know, if you innovate, you get a little close to the edge sometimes and things can break. Who cares? Nobody remembers GameStop. Fuck it, who cares? Shit's gonna break sometimes. I mean, there were times when, you know, Twitter went down and we had this fail whale. Facebook went down. Uber had problems. Surge pricing, you know, went bonkers. And at the end of the day, I'm from Brooklyn. And thank you. Anybody from Brooklyn? A couple of people from Brooklyn. I'll see you guys at the bar later. In Brooklyn, loyalty, honor is what's most important and defines somebody's character. So the fact that you let me invest in Robinhood or Travis or Elon let me invest in their companies, it's my job to go out there and defend you if you make a mistake. And just reinforcing people, here's why I made the original investment, and here's what you're going to see in a year or two. And when I saw you going through it and the world was coming at you, I said, give it 12 months. He's going to come back like a fucking beast. I knew you would go into beast mode. And the product velocity I referenced earlier, it doubled. The commitment of the Robinhood team, it tripled. The product, that was the moment, I think, at which you realized, I know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm just going to crush it. You became a beast after that. Did you not? I mean, take us into that moment. Did you feel like, oh, I'm going to give up? Or did you feel like, I'm going to fix all this shit, and I'm going to show these people what we can do?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely times where 2022 was tough. You know, there were definitely times where I questioned whether I wanted to keep doing it, to be honest. But then I remembered that I never give up. You know, who was it that said, when times are good, you don't want to leave. When times are bad, you can't leave. I think it was Lloyd Blankfein. And I think it resonates. It's sort of like the glory and also sort of like the downside of being a founder. Yeah. Especially the type of founder you mentioned. You kind of enjoy the suffering.
Yes. It is. Most of the great
founders, you like watching what it does to you, and that becomes sort of like the fuel to go on.
What I've always seen with the great founders is when things are going well, they get a little perturbed, and they're like, we're not pushing hard enough. We need to push a little harder. We need to innovate a little bit more. We need to increase the degree of difficulty. And I had Elon at the All-In Summit yesterday, and we were talking about Optimus, the robot, which I think will be the greatest selling product of all time in the history of humanity. I don't know, Tesla bulls in the audience. I get caught up between the Tesla bulls and the Qs all the time. And I'm like, guys, leave me out of it. That's a crazy group of people, both sides. He's been suffering for the last couple of months, and I've talked to him about it, over the movement of the hand. And just how many actuators and ligaments there are in an arm, and recreating this and trying to find people to get him the actuators. And he's like, fuck, nobody can build these actuators. I got to build this shit myself. It's just more and more pieces. And then they're like, oh my God, Falcon Heavy's the greatest rocket ever. It's the cheapest. They lowered the price by 90%. And he's like, I hate that fucking rocket. I need to get Starship going. That's really like, that's the great entrepreneurs, is that, and Steve Jobs was like that too. You know, I wasn't friends with Steve like I am with you guys, but I knew him because I had a blog called Engadget back in the day that was the #1 blog in the world for a while, and he read it, and his attention to detail reminds me of you, because the antenna on the iPhone 4, you remember when that was like
I remember
really
that.
shitty?
That was his GameStop moment, right?
That was his GameStop moment.
Tenev.
And what happened was the people at Engadget had read in the comments like 10 different people who were like, hey, if you do this, you short circuit and the phone call hangs up. So don't hold the phone like this. And one of the more precocious bloggers on Engadget decided to name it Antennagate. It's a great name. Put it in the headline, and they started covering Antennagate. Steve Jobs emails me 2 in the morning.
You were still running the...
I was still the CEO, and I wasn't the editor-in-chief, I was the CEO, but he would contact me when he was displeased, and he was full contact with the press. He was full contact with everybody. And he said, you're banned for life from the keynotes. Now, I would have 4 guys from Engadget at the keynotes, and I said, Steve, we didn't mean anything by it. It was just like the overnight editor. It was like a joke or whatever. And, he doesn't respond. He doesn't respond. I'm lobbying him. I'm 4 emails in. I'm like, well, this is fucked. I lost the most important contact we have. And the morning of the keynote, and we had done the first live blogs, which we called the Steve Notes, and we live blogged them. I said, Steve, it's just my last email to you. It's 6 a.m. My guys are outside at the Marconi Center in San Francisco.
Yep.
They're crestfallen if they can't cover it, but I got 2 people in the room anyway you don't know about who are going to be texting us from in the room. We're just going to be like playing telephone anyway, so the coverage is going to be bad, which isn't good for either of us. I wish you would reconsider because these guys are your biggest fans, and they're
so
heartbroken.
You threatened them a little bit.
Well, I just told them the reality of it. I mean, in hindsight, yes. And he wrote back, you're good. So I called my guys. I said, Steve Jobs says we're good. They said, what do we do? I said, walk to the front desk, tell them Steve emailed Jason and said, you're good. And I sent them a screenshot. They got to the line. They showed the screenshot. They said, go on in. Steve Jobs says you're good.
Well, that must have been nice. I remember watching a video of you as a young man asking Steve Jobs a question.
About podcasting. That was actually at the Recode, or the All Things D conference. I was a Cub reporter in 2006 or 7, and I had started podcasting. And I had one of the first 5 podcasts, This Week in Startups, and another one that we did with Autoblog. And a guy named Adam Curry, the former VJ, had worked with Dave Weiner, and they had asked Steve Jobs, can we put in iTunes, add podcast, and then you would have to paste in an RSS feed, like a URL, and then it would put on your iPod the podcast. And he announced that there. And so I said to him, hey, Steve, can I ask you, you know how you sell songs for $1 on iTunes? Can we sell a podcast for $1? And would you split revenue with us like you do the music industry? He says, that's actually a pretty good idea, Jason. Why don't you email me about it and we'll talk? And I deadpanned and I looked at him and I said, at the same email I always email you? And he said, yes. The whole audience laughed because they didn't know that Steve and I would
knew
trade each other and would trade emails. It's just a famous, funny clip. But you think about that moment as well. iTunes has buried in the menu podcasting. And then look where we are now. All In is a top 10 podcast. This Week in Startups I've done 2,000 episodes of. And
how many podcasts do you have? Is it just those 2?
It's just
or
the
do you
2
have
right
more?
now, which is enough. I do This Week in Startups 3 days a week because startups are my passion. It's how I meet founders and talk about them. And then I do All In once a week and get to chop it up with my besties and talk about
There's
politics.
some podcasters in the audience.
Yeah.
Is there? Are there anyone?
Anybody here have a podcast?
Anyone have a podcast? Okay.
Let me ask another question.
Not as many as I would hope.
How many people use podcasts? How many people listen to podcasts? Raise your hand. Okay, everybody. Keep your hand up if it's a primary source of data for you. Raise your hand if it's a primary source of data for you. See, that's the interesting thing. About half of the folks who, or maybe a third, who listen to podcasts, it's become a primary. And the reason it's become a primary is because the number of people doing it who are talking heads and journalists, no offense to journalists, but they're trying to figure things out from the outside, is going down. And then there's this other group of people who are actually doing stuff in the world, who are CEOs, capital allocators, they're making the trades, and they talk directly to consumers, and that's never existed in media at scale.
Did you began as a media person.
Yeah.
Did podcasting lead to your investing career, or was it vice versa?
Yeah, so what happened was I had started a company. It was backed by Sequoia Capital, and I said, hey, you know, our friend Elon Musk is doing this car company. You guys should take a look at it. So I emailed Michael Moritz and Doug Leone and Ruloff. They didn't invest.
They did not.
They did not invest. because they didn't want to be in hardware. At the time, people didn't think hardware would ever be a venture capital investment, really. Certainly not a car company. Then I emailed them and I said, my friend's creating a online poker for Facebook with the social graph. It's called Zynga. You guys should invest. They didn't invest. Then I emailed them. I said, hey, guys, you got to move quick. My friend Fred Wilson in New York has got a term sheet out to my friend who's got this TWTTR app. It's really compelling. It's called Twitter. But they only have the domain without the vowels. And you guys should really invest. And Michael Ritz wrote back, and I said, I highly recommend you contact Ev today. It was a Saturday. And he said, OK, I'm going to go meet with them on Sunday. They didn't invest. So I have all those emails. Then they came to me and said, hey, J-Cal, we want to create a program called Sequoia Scouts. And it's kind of like, like baseball. You'll be a scout. You try to find us some up-and-coming talent.
And Sequoia, for those of you that aren't familiar, is probably the most prestigious venture capital firm in the world.
It's the Harvard or Stanford of venture capital. Most successful. They did Apple. They did Atari. They did Cisco. They did Google. They did everything. And the best returns, obviously. And so I said, Scout, that's kind of like a corny term. Can I be called a ranger? And they were like, no, we're going to call it Scouts. We like the branding. I said, how does it work? They said, we'll give you some money, some small checks, and then we'll split the returns 50-50. I said, isn't how carry works? Like you get 2 and 20, like some fees, and then the 20%? They said, yeah, but we're Sequoia. We get like 30, 35% or whatever. But Doug Leone said, but it's not going to amount to much. It's just small dollar amounts.
Yeah.
And then my $25,000 investment in Uber turned into $250 million.
That's still your biggest winner, right?
Biggest winner. But you're right behind it. And, as great as Uber is doing, I think that, and this isn't investment advice, but I think you're going to 10x from here in the next decade. I truly believe the future of finance is going to be this very young generation, and then the millennials, the Gen Zs, all of these folks being app first and getting into it earlier and playing. And, people are here in Vegas, you're 21 years old, you go play a little blackjack, lose your money. I'd much rather see those young people, hear about a stock from their friends or use a product or service in the world and go buy the shares and then read the news stories and learn what a price to earnings ratio is and then learn about stock-based comp and stock buybacks and just have that journey instead of like learning to count cards or something. I don't think that's a bad pursuit either. I'm an avid poker player, as many of you know, and that takes a lot of skill. That's a game of skill as opposed to flipping coins. But I think that we are, because of Robinhood largely, and a little bit because of fantasy sports and DraftKings and those kind of apps, I think we have a generation bet, I call them, of young people who are being exposed to these critically important ways to handicap a decision and to think in bets and to think in terms of probability. And the only way to really do that is when you have skin in the game. And so if you want to learn poker, all due respect to my friend Pincus at Zynga, those people are playing with funny money. It's not real. Those people are terrible and they're weird and they don't play according to any logic. But once you put them at a paid table and they see their aces get cracked or they misplay a hand and they don't maximize their earnings when they have the nuts, you see them go study.
It's interesting that in both of those fields, trading and poker, nerds, quants basically, have kind of taken over.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember... Oh,
yeah, GTO is a big thing.
I mean, you probably watched World Series of Poker.
Yeah.
I remember watching it when it got really big, 2004.
Yeah.
Chris Moneymaker won the main event. And, it was normal people. Now you look at World Series of Poker, it's nerds and quants. And mathematicians.
And they've added a new element to the game, which is they're not exactly trying to read people. They're trying to understand, in this situation, based on the information I have, what is the most optimal bet. That's why they call it game theory optimal. Of course, that works really well online, but when you get them into a real table and the other dynamics come to play, like the ability to read people, the ability to intimidate people, their game is not exactly as impenetrable as you might think, especially when you have 5 or 6 of them all doing the same thing. So as an example, I played recently in a televised tournament. I won't say which one, but I was playing against a very young GTO player. I mean, he was telling me he was going to demolish me. He's 23 years old or something. And he never thought to get curious and ask me how long I'd been playing, which the answer would have been 25 years, and he's 23. And I decided, I know that he is going to be reading my bets, trying to read me, and unpack this. So I decided I would put the blast shield on the visor down, like Obi-Wan told Luke.
So he couldn't see your eyes.
So I lifted up my cards, and I put my thumb over the value of the cards, pretending I knew what I was looking at pre-flop. It was a heads-up match. I looked at it. I looked at him. I looked at him. I put it down. I don't know what cards I have. Whatever read he has means nothing. And then I just said, I am going to call him every single time for this dollar amount, and every 6th time I'm going to re-raise him. Demolished him for 15 or 20 hands. And you will see this televised shortly. And then about 15 hands in, I told him, when I had him on the ropes, I haven't been looking at my cards. He said, what? I said, I haven't looked at my cards. He's like, I don't have a way to counter that. I said, I know. That's like old man. You know the old guy, like your uncle shows up for basketball and like all the kids are dunking?
Yeah.
And he's just sky hooking them? I was just like, Patrick Ewing.
I think I've seen that YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly.
Turns out the guy's actually like 36 years old.
Okay, he's not grandpa. Yeah, but I really love that so many people are embracing this tenet, which is I am not a victim. There are capital markets, and I can participate in them. And there are people who are incredibly sharp. There are people who have big chip stacks. There are people who have access to things I might not. But I'm going to participate, and I'm going to get good at this. And you could do it in very small dollar amounts. And even I do that sometimes. Again, not financial advice, but I didn't really have a handle on what was going on with the meme stock movement, or when people start talking about stuff on Reddit. And I saw the open door thing happen. I happen to know a little bit about that company because I know Keith Raboy, who co-founded it, and I know the other co-founder. I was like, that's a really good company with really good ideas. Yeah, it's obviously underpriced, obviously mismanaged. And I see all these people kind of explaining that they're going to rally an army. So I was like, yeah, I'll just buy a bunch of shares. And I was showing Vlad. I was like, I don't know where this is going to wind up, but I'm going to buy a bunch of shares, and I know they're going to drive the price up. And then I'm just going to sell 60% of my shares as they go up, and then keep the remaining 40% for free. And I just opened my app, and my limit orders all got placed. $6, $7, $8, bing, bing, bing. Now I'm in the stock for free. And I could only do that with an app like Robinhood, And I haven't gotten into like the puts and the calls and the fancy stuff yet because it's a little bit confusing to me. And I don't know if I have the headspace for those kind of more short-term bets. But fuck it, I can just do it for $1,000 or $500 and learn while doing. And that's what I do now is if I find a stock that I'm interested in, I found this, I was getting into the defense tech stuff, and I had seen this article that Donald Trump was, or President Trump, sorry, he gets upset when I call him Donald. Donnie from Queens, President Trump. That's what we call him in New York, Donnie from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn. He keeps talking about Korea and that the fact that they're making ships, and then we did this deal to maybe do some ships over there, and I was talking to some folks, and they're like, yeah, Korean defense could be a big thing. Can't trade those stocks here. I'm like, well, I've got like the ultra high net worth access to like, I could probably go to my money manager people and get them to buy stuff on different markets. And then somebody's like, oh no, there's just an ETF for that KDEF. And I was like, okay. And I look into it. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I love it.
This is the value of Robinhood Social, by the way.
What's that?
Robinhood
Yes,
Social.
I want to talk all about this. So I see this and I'm like,
you could just get all of this.
Yeah, so
to you in real time.
I jump in and I just buy it at $28. It's trading at 45 now. I just took down like $250,000 learning. And if I were to lose it, I don't care because it's education for me. So
I have to ask you, you've talked about a few winning trades. To keep it fair and balanced, can you talk about a losing trade?
Yeah,
Do you have any of these?
Yes. When I started day trading in 2022, I was always like, that's a different sport. I'm going to just do what I'm great at, which is meeting founders in year 0, year 1. But I was like, you know what? I have so many companies that have now gone public that I own their equities. DoorDash, Uber, Nubank, Robinhood. I just have I have to know if I should clear those positions or not. So I talked to my wife. I was like, I'm going to put a couple of million over here and I'm going to start fucking trading and figure this shit out. She's like, you go, girl. And I was like, okay. Thanks, Mom. And she buys Palantir at $20, crushes it again. Bought Bitcoin. She bought it at 150. My wife makes incredible trades. And so I'm like, I know media. That's my wheelhouse. I'm going to buy Warner Brothers Discovery because they own DC Comics and they own this, and I know Zaslav, he's a fucking killer. And then I'm like, I'm going to buy Disney, look at the roadmap, Star Wars. I think that Andor shit was great. I got fucking slaughtered on it. 2 or 3 years of dead money, losing 30%. And at a certain point, I had to clear some positions and had some profits I had to offset.
And what do you think happened there?
I think the media businesses are not run they're not run as cutthroat as the tech businesses are. I think they're a little touchy-feely and artistic, and they're not as cutthroat as YouTube or Netflix are about running their business. And that's what I left out of it. I was looking as a consumer at, okay, Marvel franchise, this IP, that IP. But I had a blind spot, which was I didn't really think about the management and what was motivating them. What's motivating Zaslav and Iger at this point, or the person they put in before Iger came back, who ran Parks. And I realized these are old guys. They made their fucking money. They got a blind spot when it comes to tech. They can't get the tech.
You don't think they're hungry anymore?
And I don't think they have the edge as much. When you're 65, 75, 85, you kind of see the end of the marathon, and I just don't think you have as much to prove in most cases. And I'm not trying to be ageist here, but I just think they were enjoying the accoutrements of being the CEO of Disney and going to sit courtside at a Lakers or Knicks game more than they wanted to do what the team at Netflix is doing, which is lower churn, go international, release new features. And I was like, if I was running Disney, and I would have been a killer fucking studio head, because I'm mercurial and I like to talk, I like to hear my own voice, that's like the job. And I was like, okay, Disney app, when you open it, and I watch The Mandalorian, at the end, don't show me the credits. Move the credits over and show me the Grogu doll and say buy. You got a whole fucking merchandise arm. Or show me Rise of the Republic and play the trailer for the ride and say book tickets. And these dipshits have these incredible franchises and moneymakers, but I know how they think. Everything's a silo. Oh, and this person's like, they got their little fiefdom in parks. This person's got their fiefdom in merch, and this person's doing the shows. And yeah, they don't like to play together. Fuck that. You need a Steve Jobs. You need, an Elon Musk or a Vlad or somebody there to say, no. Disney Plus is our app, and when you finish a show, the merch comes up, and you buy it, and you can gift wrap it. They would double merchandise sales if they did that. And they would be sold out in the parks if they said, and they would have twice as many subscribers if they said, if you have Disney Plus, it comes with, a 25% discount, and you get these priority days at the park. So you can't go to the priority days in the park, the holidays, the big ones, unless you've had a Disney Plus membership. And I'm fucking smart at product just from hearing all these pitches from people. I just had another great idea. Can somebody just fire Bob Iger, or just let Bob Iger retire, and somebody introduce me to Bob Iger? I want to run fucking Disney just to solve these problems. Because, imagine if they said, Disney Premium Park Days, you get to come and be the first to experience Rise of the Republic, if you've watched all the episodes of Mandalorian, and based on how many months you've had your Disney Plus account, so that you don't churn, because that's their #1 fucking issue. So buying tickets to the park and getting the limited merchandise. How many people have had Disney Plus since the beginning? Raise your hand. Okay, so all of us have been paying for 5 fucking years. The rest of you come after us. The parks, we go in the faster lane, everything. Make it a membership that fucking matters. And this is the difference between how you and I think as technologists who think, you know, how quickly can we test something? How quickly can we get feedback? And that's the thing I want to hear from you.
My take on this is, I mean, sometimes we get this question, is Robinhood a financial company or a technology company? I think in every industry, technology is permeating. And it's the technology companies that are going to survive. I mean, you mentioned Netflix, which has solved some of these problems too, not in the same way, but at least they don't show you the credits. You have to work to see the credits.
And you know, they've figured out, they were very disruptive because I was meeting with some people in Hollywood while I was in LA for the summit, All In Summit, our event for the podcast. And you know, they pitched me on doing TV shows and stuff like that. And the economics of doing a TV show are terrible compared to having a best, you know, selling pod or a you know, top 10, 20 pod. And I was asking about Netflix, and they're like, Netflix buys the rights, they pay you more upfront, but they own the rights to everything for all time, in perpetuity, in all regions. Whereas with the other movie studios, you know, you could do it in the US, and then maybe you could sell the rights in India for your show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I was like, that is just such an incredible business model innovation, because they are international. And so when something comes up like Squid Games, or you know, something from one market happens, in that case they did buy it, but they can not worry about paying royalties and licensing and all that overhead. And then that creates the gamesmanship that Zaslav was trying to deal with at Warner Brothers. You remember this weird announcement that Warner Brothers Discovery was taking down a bunch of content that they owned? And you're like, why would you take down all these, like, you know, niche love things? It was because they had to pay royalties on it, and they were like, we got to save money. So instead of paying people who made this beautiful art that we want to watch, we're just not going to release the Catwoman film. We're not going to release this stuff because we don't want to pay the back end. And that's just that, like, paradigm shifting that makes some businesses have less friction. What's great about your business is the absolute lack of friction between you and the customers. And doing these kind of events, you know, how many members do we have now? How many gold members? How many active users does Robinhood have?
Gold members, about 3.5 million.
Amazing.
Customers, funded accounts, over 25 million.
Amazing.
Mostly in the US.
You know, so you start thinking about, like, what, you know, a couple of thousand people coming here represent of that group. It's 0.01% or 0.1%, whatever it is. Man, you think about what you can learn from these people as they use your product. And the distance between you and your customers is zero. I know that you read the customer support line. I don't even have to ask you.
I do customer support.
And you do it.
3 times a year.
Yeah. And if you talk to, like, these old CEOs, the people under them, you know, these legacy folks, they're like, let's not tell Mr. Iger about the complaints because we don't piss him off, or he's busy, or, you know, whatever, Zaslav needs to go to a Knicks game. And I always tell all these founders, there'll be a moment in time when your own team tries to take the message coming to you and interpret it for you because they're scared of your reaction, or they don't want to disappoint you, or they don't want to bother you. And it's your job to say, all that information is transparent. Everybody can see it. We know which tickets are not getting solved. We know what people are pissed off about, and we just talk about it. That's like Elon, or who does customer support on X and talks about things that are wrong with FSD, or, you know, battery charging, or whatever it happens to be. He's on the front line doing that. And so just looking at that customer feedback. And then I notice, and you probably all see this in the app, but you know, the stacked notifications at the top, some of them are notifications for me about, you know, if, you know, I have an alert, if this goes up or down 5%, let me know. But the other ones are just reminding me of all the new features constantly, right?
New features, yeah.
And that kind of, you can tell how savvy a CEO is by how informed the users are about the product offering. If you go to Disney and you say, oh my God, I didn't know you added a Star Wars ride. The CEO has failed. Everybody should know there's a new Rise of the Republic ride. Anybody do Rise of the Republic yet? It's the most incredible. Anybody? Wow. Oh, you guys,
Rise of the Resistance.
Rise of the Resistance. That's why you guys didn't know. Okay, great. Sorry. Whatever the fuck it is, it's amazing. It's like a really trippy, like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Nice job, Disney. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's like job number one, of a company is informing people of what's in the product and also what's on the roadmap. Like, how do you miss that? Like, you don't miss that. And this is why I want to talk to you about the social product. I think that this could literally double the engagement, triple the engagement on Robinhood, because the number one thing I want to do is talk to these lunatics about their fucking trades. But I need to know when you bought your shares or like how much you're up, right? Because if you go on Robinhood, people are like, oh yeah, I crushed it. I got a 10-bagger. And you're like, that's a fucking spam account. That person just bought their shares yesterday. They're just pumping this shit to flip and make 10% in a day. I want to know, this person has bought Tesla 6 times and they've never sold a share. I want that person's opinion. And then I want to know the lunatic who's shorting it. And I want to understand their thesis, because now you have shorting, right?
That's right.
And I don't think anybody should be allowed into the community unless they're willing to just, it's kind of like those saunas, or you ever been to an onsen in Japan?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like an onsen. Some people get the joke, but you're not going into the onsen with the bathing suit. It's just all laid out. You're in the onsen. And not only is that,
all a level playing field. No, that's exactly the value prop of Robinhood Social. Verified trades, real money, real skin in the game.
Yeah, and it's just, we don't need to have more information and conversations. We need to have the right ones.
Yeah.
It needs to be high signal. There's so much slop on the internet because of AI, because of anonymous accounts. Like, man, I love watching people fight shit out over Tesla or Robinhood or whatever the stock is, Uber, debate this shit on X. And then I realized, like, I click through their profiles and I'm like, these 5 accounts that are all short or long, they were all created in the last 3 months and they have no followers. And I'm like, okay, I think we know what's going on here, know?
We've got to fix that. The signal to noise ratio for those is too low.
And you also got to think about bad actors, This is why I stayed away from crypto, and I've just started to get engaged with crypto since my friend David Sachs is the crypto czar, and the Trump administration has said, we're going to just make some rules of the road. I stayed away from crypto because I was like, I can't understand the manipulation, and, people are inviting me to groups on Signal that are called Pump, Pump, Pump Coin Name. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out. They're like, here's the plan. We all pump at 3 p.m. and then we hold until next Tuesday. I'm like, except for the fucker who started this group. Because he's clearing some position he bought out, or maybe they're the person who started the whole project to begin with, because it's so easy to pop up a project. But I think that this could be transformed. How many people want to use the community product? Let me hear clapping. Yeah, people really want this. This is the game changer, dude. The other thing I think you should do is...
let's hear it.
Yeah, since we're here, and I have some requests, there's really 2 things. We talked about the calls, the quarterly calls.
Yeah.
I've bought, an app before that was supposedly going to give me these calls, but then the solo developer stops updating it. I know you have the calls in the app now.
You want to see them in social so that people can comment on it, right?
I want it live, and I want anybody who owns the shares gets to be in the chat room. Anybody who's interested in the shares gets to be like in a parallel chat room, or they're just maybe grayed out smaller font. But when we're watching the Uber call...
I should have my notepad out here.
No, it's recorded. Did somebody hit record? Did you hit record? Oh, yeah, I see the red light's on. Got it.
I think it's being live streamed in our app.
This is live stream. Oh, great. Well, and that's my second piece is, I used to do CNBC every week. I love the team over there. It's great. But I think there's an opportunity for CNBC for these lunatics who can't get enough and who don't want to do 3 minutes, they would sit through 30 minutes of analysis of Tesla or Uber. How many people here watch CNBC? Raise your hand if you watch CNBC. It's like almost everybody. How many people are annoyed when they don't go deep enough? If you're annoyed that they don't go deep, it's everybody. I mean, this is the problem. I go on that, and I'm like, here are the 3 most important things to think about when you're assessing Uber. The wait times, and they're like, great meeting with you, Jake Howe. We'll see you next time. And I'm like, there were 3 things. We got 1. Don't want the other 2. They're like, no, we have to do a superficial look at the next stock. And I'm like, can we have a little bit of a longer attention span? So here's what I want you to do.
Tell me.
I'll do some storyboards with you. I'll map it out with you because I'm a media guy. We should have on Robinhood, we'll start with a 3-hour window, maybe at the end of the day so people can do their thing. And we'll just say Mondays is going to be AI. Tuesdays will be this part of the market. Wednesdays will be crypto. Thursday will be this. And then
so like a TV show, a video, 24-hour video network.
It doesn't have to be 24 hours. I think actually making it a little bit tighter, but just so people know every week that from a trader's perspective, not anything else, just when we look at the fundamentals and you're into technology, this group of companies, every Monday we're going to do, every Tuesday we're going to do this group. So between the earnings calls, how many people would be interested in that in the app? Raise your hand. All right. So,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I just
They might just be being nice to you, Jason. I don't know.
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. I think they actually care about more community and more information. And I would love to have it be call-in too. So remember Clubhouse got big for a bit, and we were.
I remember that.
Yeah. Imagine if we're on the discussion about self-driving and we're going through all the companies and Alibaba, BYD, Tesla, Waymo, Zoox, Uber, everybody. Imagine if you had shares in those companies, if you could actually call in with a question, or the questions were prioritized by shareholders. Now we've taken the community piece, plugged that into the video piece, and we could have a dialogue about it, right? And you could have experts on there, because there's a lot of experts who are frustrated when they go on TV that they can't talk for more than 3 minutes. So now you say, hey, this Wednesday we're going to have 45 minutes with an analyst from Morgan Stanley who does this. Goldman's person who covers Uber and Tesla is going to be on for a fucking hour. We could just grill them. That shit would be crazy. It doesn't exist.
Can I ask you a bit of a unique AI question?
Please.
Okay. You're investing a little bit in AI, I'm sure, right?
Of the last accelerator class we did, my launch accelerator, of the 11 companies, 9 were AI first. All 11 were using AI to run their companies. So it's kind of like talking to a startup 10 years ago and be like, do you have an app and are you using the cloud? And it's like, duh.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah, and I'm also breathing oxygen and drinking water every day. How do you not, right? So go ahead. Yeah.
I think you have an interesting career because you're kind of the prototype of what I think work could look like in the age of AI. Yeah. You're doing podcasts, which are information, but also entertainment. Yeah. And you're investing. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen to work when we have these AI models getting better and better? Do you worry about it?
I am worried about it. I'm not a doomer. But I'm also not, a lot of people in technology don't want to talk about this issue, and I've been asked by friends to hey, maybe you shouldn't talk about this as much. Because I don't think in our industry we particularly take responsibility for job displacement. And I don't know that we're responsible for it. I think as a society we have to think about it. But if you look at human robotics and self-driving, and mobile and delivery writ large. Zipline and Amazon doing drones, Revel doing those little robots delivering burritos in LA. For every one of those robots, whether it's a self-driving car, that replaces 5 jobs. The Optimus robot or Figures robot will replace 6 or 7 jobs. Now, those are jobs that suck. But jobs that suck are where we all start. right? Like I was a busboy, I was a bar back. Like I did shitty hard work because I didn't know anything. I wasn't providing any other value in society, so I was a dishwasher. And then I was like, wow, being a dishwasher sucks. I'm going to try to not be a dishwasher. You need to have those entry-level jobs, you know, first jobs for people. And I think those jobs that are chores are going away. Painful jobs with chores. Okay, so those go away. So then, okay, those people are going to have a hard time. Now we'll go to the other side, people graduating from college. Statistic just came out this month, that for college-aged males, it used to be if you had a degree, you were roughly 2 times more likely to get a job, you know, in that age group, which is 20 years old to like 27 years old. It's collapsed in the last 10 years. If you go to college or you don't as a male in society, it makes no difference your unemployment level. Whoa, something's going on here. And then people who would go to work and do things like, hey, research this for me and then bring me back the results. Now, you can just go to ChatGPT and get that result, or customer support. Hey, customer support is where a lot of salespeople come from, because if you're great at customer support and pleasing users, they look at you, the sales department's watching, and they talk to the customer support department and say, just give me the best 10. I'm going to make them SDRs, sales development reps, or I'm going to make them customer success. After people buy the product, they're going to handhold them through the implementation. So that's kind of like the proving ground. That's the equivalent of being a dishwasher in a restaurant before you become the manager of the restaurant. Well, those jobs get automated away. Then there's nobody to do an apprenticeship with. There's no job for white-collar workers to come into a business. And I'm seeing this in all the startups we have where they're like, you know, I had to write a job description. And I typed it into, you know, Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT. And it was better than the one I found online, or better than the one that I used to hire a consultant to write for me. And you're like, okay, that was an $80,000 a year job for some mid-level HR person. Okay, I want to write a press release. Press release comes out better than the PR firm you were going to hire for $5 or $10K a month. So there's a lot of pieces of work that very smart people who are 10 or 20 years into their career, who already have been mentored, can just kind of do themselves. In the same way, you know, I have 2 full-time Athena assistants in the Philippines who do things for me, but sometimes I just take out the United app and book a flight because it's quicker, because things get easier. So that's the thing I'm very concerned about is, well, who's going to get mentored, and how do we onboard this generation into work? Now, selfishly, as somebody who invests in 100 startups a year, it's going to be awesome because when people can't get jobs, they typically do 2 different things. One is they riot in the streets, see Greece, Portugal, Italy, Egypt. Anytime unemployment hits 20% amongst young men, they take to the streets and they start lighting shit on fire. It's not good. But the good part is, anytime unemployment gets to that level, 3 or 4 people get together and go, well, there's no jobs, might as well start Robinhood.
So it'll be more entrepreneurship.
You're on your own. This is what anybody here under the age of 30, raise your hand. You're on your fucking own. Nobody's looking out for you. Just accept it that nobody's coming. Once you accept when you're lost at sea or you're lost in the woods that nobody knows you're lost and they're not coming, it's freeing. Because now you say, I have to survive.
There's a lot of overlaps between traders and entrepreneurs,
yes.
Actually. You want to be in control over your destiny. You want to be your own boss.
Agency.
I think that if you think about how people get money, it's labor and it's capital, being an investor or working for wages. So no matter what happens in the future with labor, I think capital is going to continue to be important. So our friend Brad Gerster with Invest America, giving babies $1,000 at birth.
Amazing, yeah.
I think we're going to need more of that, and more people are going to have to also take investing under their own hands, learn how to do it at an earlier age.
You know, this country, America, this experiment, is teetering right now. When you look at these difficult challenges, like we're referring to your personal challenges, there's two ways you can go. You can have agency and resiliency, creativity, and innovate. Or you can be a victim and look for a handout, and you can steer towards socialism like we're seeing in New York with Mandami. And it's not clear to me that the entrepreneurial spirit in America and agency and personal responsibility and rugged individualism is our destiny. It is possible that the victimhood, the socialism, and the handouts can win. And if you have a friend who feels like they don't have agency, they feel like they're a victim, I really hope you can pull them aside and show them what you've done to take control of your life, to learn. Anything you want to learn in this world is on YouTube right now. And with all of these LLMs, you now have an adaptive tutor that will literally help you have a perfect vocabulary. I know this because when I'm in my Tesla, I hit the grok button, and I'm like, hit me with 10 words I don't know, and just ask me to pronounce them and give you the definition. And my vocabulary has gone up just from a couple of weeks of doing this. That's the future, folks. But we have to make sure that those people who the socialists and the communists are trying to indoctrinate into the American dream is no longer alive, understand that it's never been more possible to be upwardly mobile. Anybody can download Robinhood and start trading today for fucking free because he did it. You don't have to be rich to open a trading account anymore. That used to be painful. And people would suffer. And this is why I respect you a lot. The mission that you've taken on is important for people to have agency in their life. And you know what? If you try to do something fancy above your means, once in a while I'll try to do a ski run I'm not capable of and I fall on my ass, okay, great, I learned something. Either I don't need to go down that run again, or I need to get a coach and I need to maybe be more focused and less distracted going down that run. That's why I like to do skiing, because I could challenge myself. But I really want you all to just make me the promise that when one of your friends, and we all have these fucking friends, who fucking complain and they whine and all the world is against them, just give them a hug and say, let me show you the way to actually not being a victim. You're not a victim. It's the greatest, it's the golden age right now. This is the golden age.
Well said.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it there.
I appreciate you,
Let's give a round
Vlad.
of applause to Mr. Jason Calacanis.
My man.
Thank you for joining us.
Vlad.
And why don't we bring up our master of ceremonies? I see him right there. Steve Quirk. You know him well, our pit boss. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. That was pretty inspiring. Yeah. I'm worried about the list of things we're going to be building, though.
Yeah, your
Clothing
list
optional
keeps
chat
getting bigger
room?
and bigger.
I'm going to see that come up in a poll.
Well, you do own the earnings experience and say Q&A.
Yeah, that's
so
true. That's true. We've
got
been
the right
working
pieces.
toward that. Actually, we've been working toward getting, people who own shares priority and other things. So I think it's a great idea.
And I think we'd like to see more companies doing video earnings calls like we do. I'm sure you guys would like that.
All right, well, we want to first of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you for sticking here throughout the day. This room is jam-packed. Maybe that's because happy hour is going to start over there. Probably what's going to happen. But I want to again thank our sponsors. They've done an amazing job of helping us put this on, and I want to thank you all for being here and remind you that next year we're going to have an even bigger one, right, Vlad?
We're going to have a bigger one for sure.
Yes.
Q's been looking at that sphere and trying to figure out something
I have mentioned to Vlad that how cool would that be? Who's been in the sphere, by the way? I haven't been in, but I'm really, really pushing for this. And maybe a concert to wrap it up?
Who needs a concert when we've got our keynote, Q? Yeah, I hope that it's been informative, that you've seen new products that you can use and benefit from, but also that it's been entertaining, because part of our job is not just to build these products, but to tell you how to use them and introduce the value prop in an interesting way. So we're going to try to keep getting better and better every year. And I know your guys' standards increase every year. You get more and more unsatisfied, as I do. So keep it up. And we've had a good year, but it's not over yet. So plenty more surprises, I think, for all of us.
And the happy
Hopefully
hour?
good ones.
The happy hour is right next door. Thank you all.
Thank you. Cheers.